Hello, everybody. How we doing on this fine Monday? When y'all are seeing it, it's a Friday for me right now. Almost forgot what day it was. Welcome back to episode 3 of Down with DJ Deadbeat. Of course, I am DJ Deadbeat with KLSU 91.1 in Baton Rouge, and this is the Dad Rock Reaction Review, record, whatever you want to call it, podcast here on KLSU. And like I said, episode 3. Very excited. Very surprised with how well the last video did, guys. Let's keep that up, man. And I'm happy. I'm happy people are enjoying it. Yeah. So let's keep it going, man. If you don't know what this show is, like I said, I listen to old school dad rock albums. I've listened to Ride the Lightning. Last week was Machine Head by Deep Purple, and this week I'm going to be listening to Tres Hombres by ZZ Top. That was probably the widest way I could have pronounced that, but God forbid. I don't know, bro. It's just I don't have it in me, I guess, to say the proper pronunciation. I try, but I never figure it out. But this album is ZZ Top, so I want to say third studio album. The title translates to Three Men. Very simple. I feel like a lot of ZZ Top's albums were just very simple. Like they literally, like their first album was called ZZ Top's first album. It doesn't get much simpler than that. The only way it could get simpler is if you're like Chicago, who named every single album of theirs Chicago. They went all the way up to like 15 or something. Excuse me, I just had McDonald's, so I'm struggling right now. But yeah, a lot of ZZ Top's early stuff, like specifically in the 70s and even like into the early 80s with I think the album was called El Loco. The one where they're all in the desert and they have the revolvers out and stuff. They look all cool. It was a lot of Tex-mex vibes, and they leaned into that a whole lot. And this album, I think, is kind of the album where they leaned into that the most. Aside from the Rio Grande River Water, whatever that album was called, the one that came out before this one. Let me fact check myself, make sure I say the Rio Grande Mud. That was the name of the album. Which phenomenal album. Everything up to Eliminator is just peak, and even Afterburner was a really good album. But I love ZZ Top. This is one of the few bands that I will react to on the show that I've heard live, that I've seen perform live. I saw them live in November when they came to Baton Rouge, and yeah, that was cool. Those guys are probably the swaggiest musicians to ever walk the earth. I mean, it was just unlimited. I'm gonna throw in a clip. So y'all could see. I'll throw in a couple clips, like right now. So yeah, like they're probably like the coolest people to ever exist in music, period. But if you don't know ZZ Top, like I said, Tex-Mex, they lean into the blues style a lot. They really started off as a blues band in a lot of their early stuff. Even on this album, it's very, very prominent sound, which it's not just blues, but it's like a blues rock fusion, which, without blues, there's no rock and roll. And I think that in the 70s, we heard it last week with Deep Purple, but you'll hear it especially with ZZ Top today. This time period of blues rock fusion, I think, is the best of all time, because this is whenever it was kind of fresher. I mean, it was a thing in like the late 60s with Cream, Yardbirds, all these other bands who were just coming up. I just named 2 Eric Clapton bands, so I think Eric Clapton might be that guy. Led Zeppelin is another one too. Led Zeppelin really, in the UK at least, helped make that sound very famous. So yeah, these guys are from Texas, and that's right next. They're neighbors to us. So shout out ZZ Top. They made the kind of southern blues rock fusion, very, very popular. And this album was their first big commercial success, and it's one of my favorite albums. ZZ Top is just phenomenal. I love ZZ Top. That's one of my favorite bands of all time. So how about we get back, or get right, not get back because we didn't start yet. Let's get into the music. So this album is a shorter one compared to the other two we've listened to. It's coming in at 33 minutes, I believe. All they have available for me is the expanded remaster version, which includes 3 of the songs live, which we will not be listening to. We'll only listen to the studio versions. Excuse me, damn, I'm struggling right here. So yeah, the first song is Waiting for the Bus, but you're meant to play this song with Jesus Just Left Chicago, and I don't want to mess up the flow. So we're gonna listen to Waiting for the Bus into Jesus Just Left Chicago. All right, let's do it, guys. This should be about 5 minutes. Waiting for the Bus. You know, a lot of the songs that we'll listen to are kind of simpler in terms of, you know, the song messages. I know we said we listened through, but like I think that would mess up the kind of cohesion. So let's just go track by track. And if you want to listen to the transition into Jesus Just Left Chicago, sorry, you're gonna have to do that on your own time. But yeah, simple song theme, very consistent throughout all of ZZ Top's discography, to be honest. But I personally don't grasp onto them for lyrics or music song messages. I grasp onto them for their musical ability. Billy Gibbons is one of my favorite musicians of all time. And then Dusty Hill is one of the greatest bassists of all time. And then Frank Beard, I think, is also underappreciated as a drummer. The song is just about, you know, the lives of working class person working for a better life. That's why one of the lyrics later in the song was like, and I'll be riding on the bus till I Cadillac. A very funky groove. I mean, that's already off the top. I just hit y'all, sorry. Off the top, one of their most iconic blues riffs. You know, a lot more of their stuff, I think, is known from Eliminator, which is the album where they kind of took a more overdriven guitar riff direction and messed a lot more with like synths and a kind of electric sound rather than typical blues sound. But this is like, I think, where they were at their best. And, you know, Dusty Hill, I mentioned him before, but throughout this album, he will show why he is one of the most awesome bassists of all time. And I think he's very unappreciated. I think bass is an underappreciated instrument as it is. So I think I'll find myself saying that often about a lot of bassists that aren't Les Claypool and Cliff Burton. So, yeah, Dusty Hill, I think, is just phenomenal. Rest in peace, dude. You know, it kind of sucked that he wasn't there when I saw them live, but like at the same time, I don't know who the dude who took his place was, but that guy was awesome too. So it was like Dusty Hill wasn't even gone. It was awesome. And then Billy Gibbons on this song, not only with a funky guitar riff, but a great solo and also a harmonica solo. I didn't know that was him that was playing the harmonica for the longest time. And I think that's another reason why I love Billy Gibbons so much, because he's just multifaceted when it comes to playing instruments. Like he could probably be the bassist for ZZ Top if he really wanted to. So Billy Gibbons is just showing off why he's so good. And yeah, not much message-wise for this song, but a funky blues tune that's followed up by another funky blues tune, which is Jesus Just Left Chicago. Coming in at 3 minutes and 30 seconds. Let's do it. All right, another phenomenal blues track back to back. Like I said, like those flow into each other so well. They're not the same song, but you could see why they were placed back to back. A lot of radios tend to play those songs, just let them play into each other. Yeah, a song that, you know, I mentioned before, like, you know, normally it's not like a lot to, or a lot of bands, or no, ZZ Top doesn't have the most interesting topics in their music, but this one is a little bit more interesting compared to a lot of the other stuff they wrote because of how, I guess, critiqued or how disliked rock and roll was in the Bible Belt when it first came out, which that's where, ZZ Top is from. They're from Texas. It's a part of the Bible Belt, and they are rock and roll musicians in this time period. So I think it's interesting. This song is more written in the sort of Black Christianity style rather than contemporary basic Christian style. Hence why there's the blues aspects in the song. And it's funny because Billy Gibbons back in the 70s used to go by Reverend Billy Gibbons. So I guess he kind of leaned into that whole like, hey, like y'all don't like rock and roll. Well, I'm the Reverend. So that's a pretty interesting thing. Gibbons actually said he got this idea when he was talking to a friend he called R&B Junior, and the friend just randomly said, Jesus just left Chicago, and that gave him the idea for the song. In terms of the song, phenomenal. I mean, just like I said, typical same style of blues. Dusty Hill's bass is one thing I want to highlight. It's very just consistent, repetitive. Dun 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 dun. But it's so loud, and it's one of the main things that you hear throughout the whole song. And I think that's what's amazing about blues. I've said this before. Bass is probably the most important instrument in blues. There's bass, guitar, drums, and then vocals. I think I said that last week, but Dusty Hill, I mean, Billy Gibbons is undoubtedly, I think, the most important member of the band just for the fact that he plays not only the guitar, but he's the main vocalist. Dusty Hill has songs with vocals, which we'll hear on the next song, actually. But bass, I think bass, like I said, is very underappreciated, but blues, you need a bass. Like, you need a bass because it's that undertone, because blues, I'm not going to say it's a lot more simple than rock and roll, but it's like one of those things, like you could listen to a rock song and probably forget about the bass and not even notice it. You need the bass in the blues. Like, you just need it there. But Jesus Just Left Chicago, a phenomenal song, one of my favorites from ZZ Top. Next up, coming in at 3 minutes, 25 seconds, is Beer Drinkers and Hellraisers. A more traditional sort of rock song, Beer Drinkers and Hellraisers, kind of leaning out of that traditional blues sound that we heard on the first two songs and leaning more into a hard rock, I guess, bar rocker kind of sound. I really like the duet that they're kind of doing on the song, Dusty Hill and Billy Gibbons. I think that Billy's, I don't want to say guttural, but that's kind of like the only word I can think of, matched with Dusty Hill's more over-the-top vocals on the song, sets a pretty interesting dynamic. I think in terms of, dynamics, period, in rock and roll music, like duos, I think Dusty Hill and Billy Gibbons are probably top of that list. I can't really think of one that would be better for me personally. I think that they're so unique and like they have such a good dynamic. Like I've said like 3 times, it's hard to beat that. And yeah, not much to talk about in terms of messages for this song. Just drinking beer, raising hell. Pretty southern. I guess probably go as like a southern anthem, maybe more of a Texas anthem if you want to confine it to where they're from. But I could imagine if they performed this in a bar back in the day, that it would probably get crazy. This is a pretty fun. This is a fun song. This is a fun song compared to the first two. I'm not saying the first two aren't fun, but this one's more upbeat, faster pace. So it's a lot more fun to listen to. I still do prefer the first two songs on this album, though. But this is another great song. And when I say like also the Dusty Hill and Billy Gibbons have a great dynamic, I'm not talking about just in terms of stage presence and just the fact that like they are literally the same person. I mean also like musically, like you heard on this song in terms of vocals, but also between guitar and bass, like they mesh very well. I try to come up with like a funny thing to like a metaphor. I couldn't think of anything. So yeah. On to the next song, guys. Master of Sparks, coming in at 3 minutes and 29 seconds. Down from the county line. Master of Sparks. Now, I talked about earlier how a lot of ZZ Top's music didn't really have the most interesting topics to kind of listen to in their music. This one is very interesting. So apparently, It's about this group of rednecks who made this metal steel ball contraption that they placed in the back of their truck or whatever. And they made somebody get inside of it, and they launched it from their truck after driving like 60 miles per hour or something. And if you survive being launched from it, you get named the Master of Sparks. And that's what the song is about. And apparently this happened to Billy Gibbons, and that's why he wanted to write a song about it. I don't know who in their right mind would want to participate in such a stupid event, but, you know, I feel like that's something that what a frat would do in a hazing event, but let me not. Yeah, if Billy Gibbons did that, more power to him. That just makes me think he's a lot more cooler than I already think he is. In terms of the music, it's a funky time signature off rip. I don't think I've ever heard a time signature like this from ZZ Top, like them play. Everything is normally kind of consistent, but between Billy Gibbons and Frank Beard on the beginning of the song, it sounds weird. And not in a bad way. You know, I like music with weird time signatures, but it's not what you're used to hearing from ZZ Top. So I think that was kind of an interesting thing that they did in that song. And in terms of the guitar solo on the song, I think Billy Gibbons is such a master of being able to combine feel with technique. A lot of blues guitarists kind of get stuck in that area of just playing with feel, and the guitar solos are boring. Not Billy Gibbons. Billy Gibbons is not that guy. So I have a lot of respect for Billy Gibbons, of course, in that category. And then, of course, you know, Dusty Hill just consistently repentless on every single song that he's ever been on. So, yeah, not much else to say about this song. Let's get into the next one, Hot, Blue, and Righteous, coming in at 3 minutes, 17 seconds. Hot, Blue, and Righteous. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not hating on it, but I think if the Eagles did that song, it would have done numbers. Doesn't mean it's a bad song. I do think this is a good song. It's almost a pop song. This is probably like the poppiest song that ZZ Top has ever made, I feel like. A very hypnotic riff happening throughout the song. I tried to find out what this song means, but I can't really tell. It just kind of sounds like, you know, man and a woman relationship. You know, I don't need to explain what else. Yeah, or maybe he's like dying and going to heaven or something. I don't know. It's hard to. I couldn't find anything that really explained what it meant. This is not one of ZZ Top's popular songs, so it's a good song. I like it, but as I always say, there's a reason why popular songs are popular. So, Hot, Blue, and Righteous, good song, but not my favorite. I prefer the faster, more fun, upbeat songs compared to songs like that. Now, Eagles, if you're listening, maybe at some point, cover that song. Just saying. But next up is Move Me Down the Line, coming in at 2 minutes and 31 seconds. Just move me on down the line. Move Me On Down the Line. That was a more fun song compared to the song that we heard before this one. I think that Billy Gibbons' vocal delivery sounds exciting, which is kind of the theme of this song. It's meant to be an exciting song about traveling and about freedom and, you know, just traveling and freedom. Consistent to what we've heard for the rest of the album, a great dynamic between Billy Gibbons and Dusty Hill. I think that it kind of doesn't really get up to the standards of maybe a Beer Drinkers and Hellraisers or Jesus Just Left Chicago, but still the dynamic musically is there, and it's a fun song. It's a fun song, just not the most fun song that they've done. Not really much else to talk about. At this point, it's kind of just like, okay, we've heard the recipe, and now they're kind of reusing it, but sprinkling in different little things to give it a different tang. You know what I'm saying? Putting it in culinary terms for y'all if anybody who watches this cooks or cares. But yeah, so let's not waste any more time talking about this one. Next up is Precious and Grace coming in at 3 minutes and 9 seconds.
So if you're out rolling late some night, yeah.
Precious and Grace, a very great song. That is probably Billy Gibbons' nastiest riff mixed in with Dusty Hill's tempo and pacing throughout the song. Not Dusty Hill, Frank Beard. Frank Beard, that's probably his best performance on the album so far. You know, being able to pace the song well and switch up the tempos during the solo, and just being able to match them both, not only through the verse, but also on the solo and through the progressions and whatnot. It's not overpowering, the riff, but, you know, if you play anything at the end of the fretboard, it's just kind of like, it's just meant to be nasty. And that's a lot of what Billy Gibbons did on this song. The song tackles a lot of similar aspects that have been visited on the album already, just a sense of freedom and, you know, just adventure. Yeah. And in a bluesy way, in the most bluesy way that you could do it. I love that song. I think that also Billy Gibbons introducing the slide guitar on that second solo. That's another thing that I've always loved about Billy Gibbons is that this man was just a beast on the slide, not only on, you know, just playing a regular, but once he pulled out the little metal thingy that he put on his ring finger and started playing, like he could do it in so many ways. Tush has a great slide solo, 2 great slide solos. Just got paid is another song that has great slide guitar. If you don't know what slide guitar is, like I said, instead of playing it normally where he's pressing down on the notes, he's pressing down on the notes, but he's like sliding it, and he has like this little metal thing, and he's not like you just have to see. Just look it up and see. Excuse me. Slide guitar is very interesting. It's used in a lot of southern western music. Marshall Tucker Band used it a lot. That's kind of where I've heard the most slide guitar and rock and roll, along with ZZ Top. So Marshall Tucker Band songs like Take the Highway. Not Fly Eagle Fly. The song about the mountain, whatever. You know, just listen to Marshall Tucker Band and you'll hear some slide guitar. But that song was great. It gets you back up into the album a little bit compared to Move Me On Down the Line and Hot Blue and Righteous, in my opinion, at least. But next up is the song that everybody knows, Lagrange, 3 minutes, 50 seconds. Let's do it. That song, probably the most iconic guitar riff of all time. If not one of the most iconic guitar riffs of all time. And probably like one of the most iconic rock songs, period. I mean, it's really a generational song. I mean, people in the 70s heard it. People in the 80s continued to hear it. 90s, 2000s, people my age love this song. And I think everybody knows this guitar riff. The dun down. And I think when people think of rock and roll, when they're asked like to name a rock and roll song, this is always one of the first songs that come to mind. Even if they don't know the name, they know the tune and the melody. Yeah, I mean, in terms of what the song is about a brothel in the city of Lagrange, and it was closed and reopened. It was opened during the Civil War, closed, reopened early 20th century, and then, funnily enough, the same year that this song was released, it ended up closing. And I think, if I'm not wrong, they closed again due to how much traction the song got and how much attention it brought the way of the brothel. So if you don't know what that is, then look it up because I can't talk about it. But, you know, one thing that I really enjoy is on the solo. I don't think I've ever heard a guitarist in this time period play with pinch harmonics quite as much as Billy Gibbons did. I don't know, maybe I'm missing somebody, but I enjoy how much Billy Gibbons played with pinch harmonics. It adds more tones to a otherwise somewhat kind of basic note. You know what I mean? Like one part of the solo is literally just him playing different types of pinch harmonics on the 9th fret of, I think, the D string or something. Like it's just crazy how many noises he can make with his guitar. Now, obviously, he's not like the king of that, but like I said, I've never heard somebody play with pinch harmonics quite as much as Billy Gibbons did during this time period. Me and the boys, when we make our trip to Big Bend at the end of May, we might make a pit stop in Lagrange because it's right off the I-10. And when I say right off the I-10, maybe mean like 3 or 4 miles. So maybe that's right off. I don't know. But we might make a pit stop in Lagrange just to see, what's going on in that fun town. Because it's a very iconic song. Everybody knows Lagrange, but how many people have actually been to Lagrange? So I think that's pretty cool. So next up, make sure I can say this word. Next up is Chic, coming in at 4 minutes and 26 seconds. Chic is more boring song, in my opinion, compared to the rest of the songs on the album. It's about, the topic is pretty interesting. It's about 3 guys going from country to country, just looking for the best contraband they can possibly find, which, yeah, like as you do casually. But it's a funky song nonetheless. And I think it's got a kind of hypnotic aspect to it, especially on the solo and at the end of the song. I think that, if not wrong, Billy Gibbons played with some effects on the solo to kind of give it a different sounding, tone to it. And also at the end of the song where the guitar got a lot quieter and you can hear, I guess, like it sounded like wind chimes ringing against each other. It's pretty hypnotic, and it's compared to the rest of the songs. I could see what they were trying to do on this song. Unfortunately for me, it doesn't really do the job as well as a lot of the other songs on this album. I think that would probably be like just the most boring song for me. There's not much to talk about with it. I mean, it's a basic blues song. I think that's kind of ZZ Top's downfall. They kind of just reuse the same recipe, and for some songs, it kind of doesn't come out as well. Like, sometimes you overcook a song, sometimes you don't cook the song well enough. I think this is a song that was not cooked well enough. Like, I asked for my steak to be medium rare, you gave me rare. I asked for my steak medium rare, you gave me well done. So, it happens. And this is not my favorite song. But we got one more song left on this album, and it's Have You Heard, coming in at 3 minutes and 14 seconds. The closer to Tres Hombres, ZZ Top's third album, Have You Heard, is a song about Jesus and about heaven. Have you heard about Jesus? Have you heard about heaven? I touched on this earlier with the band growing up in the Bible Belt. They presumably had a lot of religious influences around them. Like I said, Billy Gibbons went by Reverend Billy Gibbons. So I also think Billy had one of his best performances on this song in terms of guitar. It was a very fun song, and his solos did a lot for me on this one. And Dusty Hill, of course, backing it up. And I also, speaking of Dusty Hill, really enjoy the background vocals that he provided on this song. It kind of gives it a church choir sort of feel, which, given where they grew up and the religious influences around them at any given moment, I think that's kind of the sound or the vibe that they were going for, and they did a really good job at that. And Billy also provides another great slide guitar solo in the middle of this song. Like I said earlier, slide guitar is always fun. If you could throw in a slide solo, do it. Like it's always fun in Southern rock and roll. And overall, a pretty great album closer. One of my favorites on the album. But let's get down to what I think overall of the album from top to bottom. I think that in terms of overall blues sound, that it doesn't really get too much better than this. Now, I do think that this is not their best album to come out of this time period. I think that Fandango, however you say it, is a better album than this one. And in my personal opinion, I enjoy that album more. It does more for me. But, with this being one of their biggest commercial successes, for what it does for blues, rock in the South is a lot. And I could always appreciate that. And, ZZ Top was a big contributor in kind of that Southern blues rock sound. I mean, a lot of people, like, there's a reason why so many people love ZZ Top. There's a reason why so many people started to do this sound after ZZ Top kind of came out. In terms of my favorite songs, Lagrange, Waiting for the Bus, Jesus Just Left Chicago. Also, Precious and Grace is a phenomenal song, very underrated in ZZ Top's discography. Yeah, a fun album, some highs, some lows. I think that songs like Move Me On Down the Line, like I didn't really need that song in there. And as much as I guess I talked about how boring Hot Blue and Righteous was, I think that in terms of sound on this album, it's different, and I can appreciate that a lot. So like I do enjoy the song. It's a poppy song for ZZ Top standards. Chic is another one I kind of maybe could have done without, but I can appreciate what they were trying to do on that song. Overall, out of 10, I'm gonna give this album an 8, an 8 out of 10, which is pretty good. Just like I said, some lows, some songs maybe I could have done without, but overall, like the highs were really high. Some really great music on this album, and one of the key Southern blues rock fusion albums to come out of the 70s. And this is why ZZ Top are the people that they are for albums like this in the 70s. And that's why they're so popular. So, of course, thank you guys once again so much for tuning in to Down with DJ Deadbeat. Of course, I am DJ Deadbeat. And next week, I'm going to surprise y'all because I truly have no idea what I want to do for my next episode. I got to think about it. There's so many choices. It's not because I don't have options. It's because I have so many choices and I haven't picked one yet. So we're going to find out next week what I'm going to do. And I think that's it's more fun. It adds to the surprise for it. So you have no idea what I'm going to do until I release it. So I'm excited, and I'm really having fun doing this. And I hope y'all are enjoying watching me talk about music because that's what I like to do. And hopefully y'all like to watch me talk about music. So, of course, I am DJ Deadbeat. Be sure to subscribe to KLSU Radio on YouTube for more content like this because we have other podcasts coming out, not just me. I want to say we have 6 other podcasts that are going to start airing, if not this week, then the week after. So y'all stay tuned in with us. Thank y'all so much. I hope everybody has a great day, great week, great month, great year. Have a great life. All right, guys. I'll see y'all next week.